Okay, so the first news of the day, PM pitches the Uniform Civil Code. Now, Uniform Civil Code, all of you must have studied this as part of your polity course. Article 44 of the Constitution, under Part 4 of the Constitution, in DPSP, there is this talk about this that the nation should strive towards a uniform civil code. Although the more tenor with which the honorable prime minister has talked about the uniform civil code is more towards a secular civil code rather than what we have as a communal civil code. Now, in the next 3 to 4 days, what you will see is you will have a lot of articles with respect to uniform civil code, the positives of uniform civil code, the negative aspects of having this, and there is a beautiful article also written. Immediately, we'll switch to that particular article in the editorial, which we talked where we talk about that India is too diverse as a country, and we should see this diversity as a strength rather than as a weakness. And any political experimentation that we might have to basically iron out this diversity and making things uniform is not going to work for a diverse country like ours. And the fact is that this particular government is not on its own, and they have coalition partners, and these coalition partners have a significant base. Just a second, folks. Just give me one. Just give me one
मैं
second.
पूरी स्टोरी अपने फ्रेंड्स को बता
अच्छा ठीक है, डोर बंद कर लो. Sorry guys. Yeah. So the fact is that you have too much of diversity in India, and the fact that the current government relies on coalition, and both these coalitions, in fact all three coalition major partners, the JDU, the TDP, as well as the LJP, all these three have significant Muslim base as their constituents, and therefore that consensus needs to be there. At the same point of time, as I told you, we'll go through the editorial, and the editorial talks about that how we should not see diversity as an obstacle. We should see this particular diversity as something which is important, and something where a lot of consensus and a lot of debate culture is important before taking up something. So this is the starting. You should read about civil uniform civil code, and also read about a fact. What is this something called as just civil code? Is it something uniform that we require, or is it something that we require is that all particular religions can have their own codes, but there should be justice for everyone, and equality for everyone within the architecture of each particular code. So this is something that you should be aware about. As I told you, the BJP, a very BJP allies wait and watch, underline the need for consensus. This is one thing. Let's go on to the editorial of which is related to this particular article. This is the article that I was telling you, that which talks about that how we need every particular leader has his own style of the Independence Day speech. But at the same point of time, the speech that is given by the honorable prime minister is also rooted in the fact that what is his imagination of the nation state. Now, if you read the first paragraph, it talks about that the Independence Day speech set a narrative of sorts, and how do you see the nation to be coming along. And the prime minister talked about Viksit Bharat by 2047, and he talked about that you need what you need is the role of youth, especially. He also talked about the fact that you need youth in politics, more than 1 lakh youth in politics, who have no connection, who have no family connection with politics. So basically talking about that youth is going to be the main foray for India to be a developed nation by 2047. But at the same point of time, you have this imagination of national community. How do you see India as a nation? Now this is where the problem lies, that I mean, India is too diverse to have one particular idea of a national community. We are divided by religion, we are divided by caste, we are divided by region, we are divided by language, we are divided by culture. This all is tremendously heterogeneous. It's a miracle that we are a country with so much of diversity within us. And so one kind of national speech, one kind of politics of national speeches consists of the effort to present national diversity as a set of contradictions that are harmful to public good. That is one way to imagine the nation, and that is basically homogenizing the entire country, that diversity is not important, diversity is seen as a contradiction. The other way to think of it is that diversity it is not possible to obliterate diversity, and it cannot be seen as a harmful contradiction. This is what the idea of India should be. And as I told you, that he talked about the youth and how one deals with present, complex past, and the present, and the fact that I mean, the author does not agree with the prime minister that I mean that the national movement overthrew the colonial rule, and there is a contradiction. But at the same point of time, there is a contradiction because the colonial rule also did not allow for self rule, and therefore if we say that the colonialists did not allow for self rule, how can we say that we are against diversity? If we have diversity, we should also have some kind of self rule. Every community should have some kind of say in their own in their own lifestyles. But at the same point of time, yes, agreed that there should be a consensus, and there should be a secular code of sorts, that there should not be discrimination among one religion to another religion. So that is something that is acceptable. Then the next idea is governance. Now the prime minister also talks about reform and reforms in economics as well as cultural agenda, that he had used certain terms. And if you see it is he talks about in this particular article as well, that in India we had lived in a time where you had होता है ऐसा ही होता है, and do whatever you can in the limited opportunities that you have. And he said that things have changed, and reforms are a blueprint of growth, and not just for debate clubs and intellectuals. So basically he's targeting what is called, if you have heard of something called as this Khan Mar, he used to say something called as Khan Market Gang, that reforms are only debated among intellectuals. But at the same point of time, I mean, when we talk about the diversity of India, before introducing anything, don't you think that India is so diverse that we need these debates? These debates should not be seen as a contradiction. These debate clubs and participation is the part of consensus building, and that is exactly what their allies have said, that we would like to have. All these three parties have said that we would like to have a debate and a consensus within our constituencies, and then see what comes up. And that is the beauty, again, as I told you, that is the beauty of India, that we need this debate and consensus culture, and development through contradiction is one where you have synthesis, you have antithesis and you have thesis, and then you have, through debate, you have synthesis of these ideas. Then coming to social progress, that how should we see nationalism in the age of globalization. Now again there is contradiction, that we talked about Atmanirbharta, but at the same point of time we also the speech also said about that Indian CEOs are there in all the global forums, but at the same point of time we should also acknowledge the fact that we should learn from these, and we cannot say that we will be independent, and we cannot be related to them. I mean, we cannot develop ourselves in isolation. So this basically domain talks about the fact that we need to learn from the world as well. And in the era of globalization, you cannot have Robinson Crusoe kind of Robinson Crusoe's kind of a mindset that we will develop on it on our own without being dependent on others. And then the last part of the article is very good, because see, these are the anecdotes that you can take. So take a note of this, take a printout of this particular article. And if you have something on, if you have a essay on something on democracy, debate, UCC, so think of how you can fit this particular anecdote into your essay. Now and someone who's checking your answer sheets would be someone who will be in late 60s, late 70s, late 60, at least late 60s, and late 50s. That particular person could now get into, can understand this particular movie called Didi, where you had this debate between the teacher and the students, where the teacher taught them about India, and the student said that what you had told us about India doesn't look anything like that. India is disjointed by religion, divided into caste, and different ways of thinking. If people live in the same nation, don't speak the same language, this doesn't imply disunity or hostility. Difference, he points out, then is not enemy of nationhood. So this particular anecdote I want you to pick up, and then write it down, and then see where you can fit it in an essay. I hope this aspect of essay writing is somewhat clear to you, what I'm trying to say. So but this is extremely important. How do we build these essays for our for our entire analysis. Then let's come to page 1 again. Yes. Another article is, India puts all its eggs in one basket, needs to shift policy. BNP. We already know about the entire issue, what is going on in Bangladesh. We've been following that. Now, the main opposition party to Awami League was BNP, and now the BNP leader and a former cabinet minister. There was this interview, and since the stakes of the BNP are going to be high, there is the good number of interview questions here, and very interesting questions. Now what this particular leader has said is that India has put too much of political capital, invested too much of political capital in one government, which is Sheikh Hasina's government, and now it needs to balance its views. It needs to also engage with the new reality that is there in Bangladesh, which we have already talked about. And the fall of this particular party was because of the fact that she had taken complete political control over a number of democratic institutions like the election commission and the anti-corruption bureau, even the even her own party. That is where the problem was there. And then with respect to on Sina's extradition, there has been talk that she might go to UK, but UK will not allow asylum until unless you are there. US has also denied it. That means for foreseeable future, Sheikh Hasina will be in Delhi. At the same point of time, because she's taken asylum here, it is unlikely that she will be extradited to back to Bangladesh. Then on student movement. Now, why was this entire issue, you should know the background of this entire issue. If you don't know, the background of the entire issue was the reservation, the extension of reservation given to family members who had participated in the war of independence, and that basically set the scale for all these riots. And then it was further compounded by the fact that the Sheikh Hasina government called these protesters students as Razakars. You should also be aware of who Razakars were during the 1971 liberation war of Bangladesh. Then attack on Hindus, again something which is a major concern for our government. And on India's Dhaka's position, he acknowledges the fact that, see, India is the biggest neighbor of Bangladesh. We surround Bangladesh by three sides. They have a very small border with Myanmar. So therefore, any particular activity, we would be one of the main stakeholders, and therefore, India needs to have a broader consensus on the political front with Bangladesh, and the leadership that is emerging from Bangladesh. So an important article that is there. Then the next article on the front page, which is important, is NMC, National Medical Council Commission, there was a task force for mental health, which talked about better pay and a maximum of 74-hour work week for medics. Now, medics in general work enormously. They were under a lot of pressure, and it's a high pressure job, and then you have to save lives. And among all of that, if you see the issue with respect to Kolkata rape and murder, again the issue was that the doctors, the resident doctors need to have a safe place for them to retire and sleep, and that is where the incident happened. And it's because they're extremely tired, because of the kind of workload that they have. So even in this mental health, this thing, they talk about that 5 days they can work for 10 hours, and then one day they can work for that 24 hour. So they all have, usually weekly they have 24 hour shifts as well. And because of the kind of pressure that these UGs and PGs, as well as resident doctors have, there is a lot of mental health issues that they face. And the government is talking about 24/7 easy access to the 24/7 telemanas, this thing app, which is for mental counseling and government counseling, for helpline for that is there. So this is something that the government is talking about, as well as the commission also talks about a 10-day vacation to all students, as well as the fact that the compensation that they should get should be in the range of 15,000 to 1 lakh rupees. So all of these are important developments since this issue has been there in news. Then, coming to, yes, explain page. Now, why the latest mpox outbreak is emergency of international concern. Now again, something important, this monkeypox is something which is now been declared by WHO as public health emergency of international concern. It is the second time that this particular infection has received PHEIC, which is public health emergency status. And the decision has been taken because a number of cases have emerged from Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, there are common symptoms of this particular virus, which is fever, headache, backaches, etc. And till 1970s it was endemic to African region. But what is concerning is that, see, there are two kinds of two kinds of mpox. One is called as clade 1, the other is called as clade 2. Clade 1 is deadlier as compared to clade 2. In fact, India has had some cases of clade 2 in the past, but with respect to people who have traveled from Africa to India. But clade 1 is typically also divided into clade 1 A and clade 1 B. Clade 1 A is basically through zoonotic spillovers transmitted from animals to humans. When animals and humans live in close proximity, there can be this switch from a virus switching from animals and then entering the human genome system. This was endemic to DRC, but now we have seen clade 1B infections which are reported through sexual transmission, and we've had number of cases that have been reported in Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, and DRC. That is the major concern that we have. And then this virus has now evolved from being a zoonotic virus to one that is now being driven from human to human transmission, and that is how virus keeps adapting itself. So now the issue is India at risk? There have been some cases in 2022, mainly of clade B, and are there vaccines? Yes, there are certain vaccines, and international bodies like GAVI as well as UNICEF now procuring vaccines for distribution in these outbreak countries. So read about this. Then if you want to read about the Stonehenge, which was built using stones all over Britain, you can read that. But this is more important from our point of view. Why this is important? Because we had talked about the fact that every 13th of the month, 12th or 13th of the month, you have the inflation data that comes. Now the inflation data that has recently come is that the food inflation has gone down. Now the food inflation, which was consistently above 8%, in fact was 9.5% in the previous month, has now reduced to around 5% this month, and this is because of two factors. Now the first factor is that the base effect, because of the fact that last time when the inflation was seen in July of 2020, for July of no July of 2023, it was around 11.5%, and based on July of 2023, the inflation this year is because you have a very high base, so therefore the inflation, because of the base effect, is low at 5.4%. But apart from that, the other concerns, the other issues why the inflation has gone down is first because of monsoons. Now monsoons had started early in India, a couple of days early than the 30th May, when it is usually scheduled. But in the month of June, what we saw that as compared to the historical long period average, the rainfall was below normal. So it was around 11% below normal, and we saw that except for South Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh, everywhere else there was this impact of El Nino, the residual impact of El Nino. And then you had this neutral phase of El Nino coming, and now you have the setting in of La Nina coming. And if you've seen rains throughout the country, you have flooding, you have rains because of the setting up of La Nina. But because the monsoon has revived, and the overall rainfall, if you see till from June to September, till August 15th, we've had around 15% above normal rainfall, and if you compare the entire season, then we have 5% above that. And because of this, because the rainfall is sufficient, we have seen a higher level of sowing, and because we have seen higher level of sowing, we can imagine that there will not be a supply side problem, and therefore the prices will be not that high, and the inflation can be controlled. So and apart from that, if you read all of this, this shows that because of decent prices. The farmers are growing all these except for cotton, because cotton we have a new problem of pink bollworms. So read about what are these pink bollworms, which can now attack the the genetically modified GM cotton as well. So that is a major problem in facing in Maharashtra for the last couple of years. Now the other thing is that even the global food prices are at their historic lows. After the Russia Ukraine war, the prices have continuously been falling. And even after importing, say if you want to import wheat or any particular commodity, sunflower oil from Russia and Ukraine, it will be at a lower cost than what your MSP is. So and you have sufficient amount of stocks of wheat and rice, especially rice with you. Therefore you will be able to manage any kind of shocks, that if any kind of shock that comes to the economy. So because of all these factors, what is being seen is that we are optimistic that the inflation, the food inflation in the upcoming few months can be managed well. So an important article for you to understand food inflation. And then if you want to read why 44 and 60 could be two key ages for in your health span, because that is where the metabolism, a study basically says that this is where the metabolism of your life starts changing, especially metabolism of coffee digestion, caffeine digestion changes, as well as the metabolism for carbohydrate consumption also changes. So this thing happens in 40s and in 60s, and it talks about cell aging as well, that how cells age. And there are different kinds of there's an interesting this thing, there are different kinds of animals. There are animals who live and die young, for example killifish, turquoise killifish, which grows fast in 14 days and die young. And then you have the Greenland shark, the fish that glides around for up to 500 years. So you have all kinds of I mean methods of lifespan. So you can read about it, interesting debates with respect to aging. Then a very important article with respect to what is happening in Myanmar. Now if you see Myanmar, you have it is divided ethnically. Now without even ethnicity, if you see, there is a region called as Rakhine region, which is surrounding which is nearby the Indian northeast, that is called as the Rakhine region. Now this Rakhine region often wants independence from the, because culturally they are very different from the other part of Myanmar. Now they talk about autonomy, they now talk about independence. And there are two kinds of entities that are operating, powerhouses that are operating from Myanmar. One is called as the Royal Army. The name that is there, the Tatmadaw. So if you see this word Tatmadaw, Tatmadaw is basically the Royal Army of Burma, the traditional army of Myanmar. And then you have the other army, which is the Arakan army, which is basically, you can think of this as a militia, which is fighting for independence, which is fighting for autonomy. But at the same point of time, both these parties, both these groups are equally violent, and they suppress these rights of people. Now what has happened recently is around 200 people have lost their lives, and mostly from the Rohingya community. Now Rohingya community is basically the Muslim community that lives in this Rakhine region. And you have this Arakan Buddhist army that is there. And it is being alleged that these people have been killed by the Arakan Buddhist army, because they were not contributing, and they were not participating with their struggle, the struggle that Arakan army is having with the Myanmarese government. So this is so basically the ordinary people of Myanmar, especially of the Rakhine region, are basically caught between these two powerful forces: the Arakan army, which is the militian army, and the other part, which is the the Royal Army, which is the Tatma Dao. Now, this particular party, the Arakan Party, also has support from the National Myanmar National Democratic Alliance, and and they have been using conscripts from different communities to fight against the Myanmar army. So, and this is a very important development because this region is extremely important for India, and because of the cross border issues that we face. Apart from the fact that both Arakan Army and the MDDA have very close links with China, and China is supposedly funding them, and the fact that India has a huge, developmental project coming there in form of the Kaladan Road project. So read about this Kaladan Road project, which links Kolkata to the Sitwe port of Rakhine province. So that is why we should also be involved diplomatically, because this is an important region. Then the next article is number 16, which talks about Srijesh. Now, the heroics of Srijesh in hockey, and he comes from Kerala, which is not very well known for hockey, but at the same point of time, how Srijesh picked up hockey late. At the same point of time, his heroics in the quarterfinals, where he held the entire team, and then he as a leader, he was able to secure two bronze medals for India in two Olympics. So you can read about this particular person. Then a very important article with respect to people from economics background, and in general you should also be aware of what is happening in the banking sector. Now let me explain this. Typically all particular banks have their focus. All traditional banks have their focus on something called as CASA. Now what is CASA? CASA is current and saving accounts. Now why are they important? Because these are the main sources of funding for any particular bank. On the current account you don't get any don't get any interest rate, but on savings account what you get is somewhere around 4%. Now a 4% interest rate, suppose if I keep 1 lakh rupees at 4%, I will get 4,000 rupees as interest. But at the same point of time, the inflation rate is around 6-7%. That means I am going to get a negative return if I keep my money in the savings bank account. Now because there are in the last 2 years there have been development of so many asset classes: equities, bonds, mutual funds, cryptocurrencies. So you have had so many sources to keep your money that a typical person has reduced the deposit ratio. So, and that is what has happened. Now a typical banking model works on the fact that you raise money at 4%, 3% from depositors, and then you lend it to customers and to loan takers at 12%, 15%, and earn the net interest margin. This is the income source. This is how banks earn. Now what has happened is that this funding that was available to banks is no longer available. This cheap funding is no longer available, and because this cheap funding is not available, you see that the deposit growth is going down. The deposit growth has gone down to 41% of the total deposits, and the credit growth is in fact increasing. So which brings to the fact that all these banks are now going to face a liquidity risk. Now suppose I have lended to a bank lakh rupees, and it has lended that lakh rupees for 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. So what it has done is that it is now caught in a cycle where it is borrowing from me and for a short term, and then lending it out to someone at a long term, which results into a liquidity kind of a crisis. So liquidity crisis is where you do not have sufficient liquidity to fund your whatever obligation that you have. So their liquidity crisis, the liquidity risk has increased, and if the liquidity risk increases, then banks will not be able to finance a lot of other funds, profitable investments. Suppose Now a particular entity, say Adani, comes to a particular bank and says that I want to say borrow money, say 2000 or 5000 crore rupees for 20 years, and it is incredibly profitable for the banks, but because of the liquidity risk that is there, the liquidity profile is low, therefore the bank is not able to fund that particular project. So what happens is that if there is if on a whole that there is a liquidity crisis in the economy, in the banking structure, then banks are not able to fund these projects, and if banks are not able to fund these projects, then the investments suffer in the economy. And the other aspect is that a lot of these non-banking financial corporations, small banks, finance banks, microfinance institutions, all of these institutions are also dependent on these banks for funds, and if these banks do not have funds, then the microfinance and the small these non-banking financial corporations will not be able to lend more. If they are not able to lend more, then consumption and investment activities in the economy go down. So these are important concerns that we have, and the only way forward is that how do banks attract more funds? They have to increase their interest rates so that savers get superior returns. At the same point of time, the policy makers also need to think that this is something that is going to happen in future, and they need to develop a good bond market in the economy, so that anyone who wants to borrow money need not only have to go to banks, they can also go to the corporate bond market or the private bond market to raise money. So all of this is an important development. Now this entire page, if you want to read Anasuya Sengupta's article, you can read it. She's the winner of Best Actress in the at Cannes. The other two articles are very political in nature. I know this particular entity named Abhinav Prakash. He teaches at Ramjas. Again, something which is just a mouthpiece of the government. Nothing critical about it. New round of Gaza truce talks in Doha amid fears of Iranian attack is something that you can read. Then you might have heard that the Supreme Court, the court of this thing, Thailand, had removed the current prime minister that was there, and now you have a new prime minister that might be elected. Thaksin's daughter, one of the youngest person to become the prime minister at the age of 37. Then yes, this article you should definitely read. Now this article talks about the fact that you have the central is basically finalizing these assistant to state governments. Now the center has decided to provide around 10,000 crore rupees to state governments, provided that they invest money in number of things. One of the most important things that they want to do is create a farmers registry, at least have a database on the farmers of the country, and then also have appropriate land records for each of the regions. So of the central government is basically giving this money out for different regions. 10,000 crore rupees is given for land related reforms that are there. Apart from that, you have centrally sponsored schemes in the urban and the rural areas, and then 25,000 crore rupees are also given for capital expenditure for the upcoming year. So you have a number of things that the government wants the states government to do, because this is under the state list, and this is the new development that states will need to undertake land reforms in the area of unique land parcel identification number. Just like you have your PAN card, you want to identify each particular land piece through this particular UL pin, or what is also called as Bhumi Aadhaar, basically for digitalization of cadastral maps. And also the code the coding of the current ownership of all these land, and even in urban areas fiscal incentives will be provided for GIS mapping for property record administration and stuff. So this is something that you can read. Then apart from that, Modi urges states to compete for investment and clear policies. and then you have this India offers end-to-end chip solutions to the world. Now chip manufacturing, you should be aware that semiconductor chip manufacturing has already started in India. One is in Assam, the other is in Gujarat. In Gujarat we are making the 28 nanometer chips. You should be aware about what are the 28 nanometer chips that we are making. One is there are two ventures by Tata's, and there is one private another venture with Micron or someone else. So we are offering this end-to-end chip making because the industrial revolution 4.0 has taken up, and we need to use this, and we need to have this setup of our own end-to-end chips. Then you can read about Ola's foray into electric motorcycle segment with launch of three models. Ola plans dark stores, could trim cloud for ONDC, is something that you can read. So this is all about our newspaper, folks, for the entire day. Now you can take this forward and enjoy your day, read your optional and stuff. And for people who are with the economics optional, you have your test on Sunday, your optional test, and others we'll meet on Monday with respect to our D3. All right, folks, thank you very much. See you on Monday, folks.